Welcome back to another Professor Jason Reed walkthrough. This video, we're going to walk through Chapter 15 Grader Project. This will be our first Excel grader project that we've walked through in this class. So let's go ahead and download our materials. And we'll click on Download All Materials. We'll download the regional sales instructions, download our student file, and unless you have a Macintosh computer, you do not need to download the retrospect theme as we already have it installed on Windows PC. Once you have those downloaded, once again, do not download using the Download All Files button. That will download a zip file, which will make it harder to save and submit. And let's get to it. Let's open up our student file and click on Enable Editing. Now notice in Excel, it looks very similar to our previous Word assignments. We have our tabbed interface, Home tab, Insert tab, Page Layout. We have our groupings, which are clipboard, font, alignment. So very similar to our Word layout. There are some differences though. Notice we have our workspace down here. We have columns and we have rows. And where those intersect is called a cell. And right now, if you notice, A1 is my active cell. You know it's the active cell because it will say A1 right here in the active cell. We have our FX button, which is our formulas. And right here is our formula bar. This is where we do a lot of our typing and inputting formulas. So let's go ahead and get started. Downloaded our assignment. So we are now on step 2. It says change the theme to retrospect. We're going to go to our page layout tab. From our page layout tab, notice we have themes. Click on themes and find the one that says retrospect. It looks like it is the second column or second row down, fourth column, retrospect. Now it wants us to widen column A to 80 pixels. We're going to come up here to our columns, and notice when you hover over A, you get a black arrow pointing down. And if you hover right between A and B, you should get 2 arrows pointing away from each other. Once you get this icon, go ahead and click hold and drag this to 80 pixels. So I'm going to drag it over here. It takes a little bit of fine motor skills. I'm at 80 pixels. I let go. It's going to resize that. And now it wants me to change the column width of B through H to 110 pixels. Well, to do this, we're going to hover over the B, get that black arrow pointing down, click hold, and drag all the way over to column H. And notice when you do that, it will highlight all of these columns. Like we did between A and B, let's go ahead and go in between D and E. Get the 2 arrows pointing away from each other. Click hold, and drag this all the way to 110 pixels. Oops, I went a little too far there. Once again, a little bit of fine motor skills. 110 pixels, right there it is. I'm going to let go. And notice how all of them resize at one time. And we are now done with step number 2. So for step number 3, it wants us to merge and center the title across ranges A1 through H1. Come up here to A1, go ahead and click on A1. Then click on A1 and hold it and drag all the way over to H1 and then let go. And now notice all of these cells are highlighted. This right here is not highlighted. It is still selected though, but it is what's called our active cell, which we'll talk a little bit more in future videos. So now that this is highlighted, we're going to come to our Home tab. And from our Home tab, under our alignment grouping, click on Merge and Center. And now notice it is merged and centered across the entire row. It also wants us to apply the title cell style. So from our home tab, under our styles grouping, you probably have a few cell styles showing. For me, it does not. It depends on the resolution of your monitor. But you may have a few of these cell styles showing with a down arrow with a line above it. But for me, I'm just going to click on cell styles. And this is what we want, this drop down box here. And I want to click on title right here. It also wants us to merge and center the subtitle from A2 to H2. So I'm going to come over here to A2. I'm going to click hold and drag all the way over here to H2. And I'm going to come back to my home tab under my alignment grouping, and I'm going to click on merge and center. And lastly, it wants us to apply the heading 1 cell style. I'm going to come back over here to my styles grouping, click on my cell styles, and change it to the heading 1 cell style. And notice when you hover over it, it gives us a preview of what it's going to look like. So click on heading 1. All right, done with number 3. Moving on to step 4. It says select the 7 column titles and apply the center formatting and the heading 4 cell style. So these right here are our 7 column titles, quarter 1 through trend. So go ahead and click on cell B3, highlight all the way over to H3, let go. So now we want to center it. We don't want to merge and center, we want to center. So come to our alignment grouping, and right here is our center button. We'll click on the center button. And it wants us to change the cell style to heading 4. So we're going to come back over here to our styles grouping, click on cell styles, and click on heading 4. And we are done with step number 4. For step number 5, it wants us to use the quick analysis tool to sum quarter 1 sales. Well, we're going to come over here. Here is our quarter 1 sales. To get that quick analysis toolbar that they're talking about, we want to highlight B4 through B6. And when you highlight B4 through B6, notice that we get this little icon right here. This is our quick analysis tool. Go ahead and click on that. And we want to add, so we're going to go to our totals. And we are going to sum the column. And notice when I hover over this, it shows us where it's going to put it in cell B7. Go ahead and click on B7. All right, so now we're going to sum quarter 2. There's another way to do this. We can put it in manually. So go ahead and click on cell C7 and come up here to our formula bar and go ahead and click in our formula bar. We're going to manually type this out. So the very first thing you want to do when you put in a function into Excel is you want to tell Excel that it should expect the function. To do that, we are going to use the equal sign. Equal sign tells Excel, hey, anything following this is going to be a formula or a function. So now we need to tell it what formula or function we want to use. In this particular case, we are going to use sum, S-U-M, because that is our function to add numbers together. So now we've told Excel that we're going to use a formula. We've told it what formula we're going to use in the form of sum. Now we want to tell Excel which data to add together. So I'll go ahead and open up your parentheses. And we are going to type in C4. Use colon, and then type in C6. And notice when you do that, it highlights all the way from C4 down to C6. Anytime you use this colon, it means it will add together all of the numbers in between. Now go ahead and close your parentheses and hit enter. And it will sum that together for us. Another thing that we can do is we can do what's called auto sum. So if we come down here to cell D7, and in D7 we want to add these numbers together. Well, Excel's pretty smart and it will know what numbers we want to add together. So let's come up here to our home tab under our editing group and click on this button that says auto sum. And when you click on auto sum, notice how it puts a moving border around the data that we want to put in. And it automatically builds the formula for us. Well, that's it. We're done. Go ahead and hit enter. And it puts our sum in for us. So there are a lot of different ways that you can do functions in Microsoft Excel. Now we want to copy. We're going to try copying this formula over because that's the last thing that we can do. So go ahead and click on cell D7. And from D7, notice when you click on this, down here at the very bottom corner on the right hand side, we have a dot. It's a very little dot, but if you hover over that dot, it's going to change our fill handle. So take a look how it changes our icon. That is called our autofill handle. So now if we want to copy this over, we're going to click hold on that dot and drag it over to quarter 4 and let go. And notice how it copies it over for us. And if you click on E7, it will tailor that formula for that particular column. So now it says E4 to E6, so meaning it is adding together these numbers right here. Well, it looks like that this one right here bolded for us, and considering that it wanted us to use the quick analysis tool, we're going to go ahead and highlight C7, D7, and E7, and we're going to apply bold to those as well. And we are now done with step number 5. For step number 6, it wants us to total the northeast row under totals. So let's go ahead and let's use our quick analysis toolbar again. We're going to highlight from B4 all the way over to E4. And notice that we have our quick analysis button pop up. Go ahead and click on that quick analysis. Go to our totals. And instead of summing down here and putting it in the column, we want to sum where it's going to put it off to the side. So we're going to click this one right here with the yellow. And notice how it puts in the total for us. Now we're going to go ahead and just copy this formula down. To do that, we're going to click on F4. Remember, you have this little dot down in the corner. This is our autofill handle. This is to copy our formula down. So go ahead and click, hold, and drag that all the way down to F7. And now we have all of our totals. All right, we're done with step number 6. Let's move on to step number 7. It wants us to apply the accounting number format to the first row and the total row of our sales figures. We're going to come up here where let's highlight from B4 all the way over to F4. And we're going to come to our Home tab. And under our number grouping, we're going to click on this $sign. This is the accounting number format. And we're also going to do that to B7 all the way over to F7. We're going to highlight B7 to F7. And we are going to select the $sign. It's going to put the accounting number format in there for us. However, it also wants us to apply the total cell style to the total row. We're going to come up here to our styles grouping under our cell styles. And we are going to select total. And then lastly, it wants us to select the middle numbers here from B5 down to F6, these numbers right here. And we want to apply the comma style. Come back up here to our number grouping and click on the comma for comma style. And we are now done with step number 7. All right, so looking back at the instructions for step number 2, I believe this instructions are actually wrong. We need to change our column widths to a little bit wider. Notice how right here I'm getting these hashtags, $signs. That means that these columns are not big enough to show the data that we have in these particular columns. So I believe we are supposed to come up here and notice how southeast, these are not fully displayed either. So let's come up here. We're going to change these widths a little bit more. Let's come in between the A and B column, get the 2 arrows pointing away from each other. Let's click hold, And notice how we went on 80 pixels. Let's go ahead and change this to 10.71. 10.71. So let's go ahead and change this to as close as we can get to 10.71. And it takes a little bit of fine motor skills to get there. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do 10.67 because my fine motor skills are not allowing me to get it over to the 10.71. And then let's come up here and highlight the B, get that black arrow pointing down, click hold, drag all the way over to H. And then we're going to come back in between D and E, get the two arrows pointing away from each other, click hold. And we're going to change this to, instead of going by pixels, let's go by width. And we want to change it to approximately 15. So let's go ahead, and there it is. I got it to 15, and I'm going to let go. And notice how it makes this a little bit bigger for us. Now I can see all of my numbers. And now that we've corrected that, we can move on to step number 8. So in step number 8, it wants us to insert a new row 6. So let's come over here and let's hover over the 6. When you hover over the 6, you get this black arrow pointing to the right. Go ahead and click once. Notice how it highlights the entire row. Then right click on that 6 and hit insert. And it will insert a brand new row 6 for us. We're going to make A6 our active cell. And let's go ahead and type in Midwest. Once you've typed in Midwest, it's much faster if you don't use your mouse to move to the different next cell. Go ahead and hit the Tab key. And notice when you hit the Tab key, it will move us over to the right. And it wants us to type in 110.985.45. Then hit the Tab key. Type in 118.674.91. Hit the Tab key. 100.548.50. Hit the Tab key and type in 120.621.17 and then hit the Tab key again. And now we have all of our information in the new row 6. It wants us to copy the formula down from F5. We're going to click on cell F5, make it the active cell. Remember this autofill handle right here. If you hover over that dot in the corner, click hold and drag it down to F6. And it will fill in that formula for us. And we are done with step number 8. On step number 9, it wants us to use an absolute cell reference to calculate the percent of total sales. So we've covered how if we copy a formula down, it will tailor that formula and customize it for that specific row. But there are times when we want to copy a formula and not change which cells that it refers to. And that's where we use an absolute cell reference. So let's go ahead and click on cell G4. And we need to construct our formula first. So first we need to tell Excel to expect the formula, which is going to be the equal sign. And in order to get a percentage of total sales, we need to divide F4. So type in F4, and then the division key, which is the backslash. And we want to divide it by F8. However, we want to make sure F8 does not change. So if we were to copy this down now, it would change F4 to F5. And it would change, when we copied it down further, it would change F6 divided by F10. But if you notice, there's nothing in F9 and nothing in F10. So if it copies down, we're going to get an error message. So we need to make F7 an absolute cell reference. To do that, you need to go on your keyboard and hit the F4 key. Now, if you have a laptop, most of the time your function keys are dual purpose, so you have to hold down the Fn key, which is down by your space bar, and then hit the F4 key. However, if you're not able to do that, or if you're having issues, then you can go ahead and just type in a $sign before the F and after the F, and that will put in the absolute cell reference for us. So once you have equal sign F4 divided by $F $8, go ahead and hit the Enter key. and it's going to give us a decimal point. We'll change that to %sign in just a minute, but let's go ahead and copy this down. So let's go ahead and click on G4, hover over our autofill dot right here, click hold, and drag it all the way down to G7. And here it is. Here are our decimal points, but it wants us to change this to a %sign with 2 decimal places. We're going to come up here to our number grouping. We're going to click on this % style right here. But notice how we have no decimal places. We're going to come to these 2 icons right here, where if you hover over, it'll say either increase decimal or decrease decimal. In this case, we want to increase decimal, so let's click this 2 times. 1, 2. And notice how it puts 2 decimal places in for us. It also wants us to center the percentages, so we're going to come up here to our alignment grouping and click on the center button right here. And we are now done with step number 9 and step number 10. All right, moving on. It wants us to insert sparklines. So right here is our trends. We want to insert sparklines. We're going to click on cell H4. And we're going to go to our Insert tab. And from our Insert tab, we're going to come to our Sparklines grouping. And we want to insert a line sparkline. And what sparklines do is it allows us to see at a quick glance the trends in our data, whether the data is going up, the numbers are going down. So it's just a visual representation of our data. So we want to include all these quarters. So we're going to come over here to B4, click hold and drag all the way over to E4, and then let go. And notice when we do that, it will put our data range in here, B4:E4. Well, that's what we want, so go ahead and hit OK. And notice that it puts our trend line in here for us. And we want to copy this down to H7. So we're going to hover over our autofill handle, our copy handle here, and click hold and drag it down to H7. And notice it will put our trend lines here. It tailors it for each row. It also wants us to show the sparkline markers. And we'll come up here to our show group. And we're going to put a check mark next to markers. And we want to change the style, so we're going to come over here to our style group. Click the down arrow with the line above it. And we want to find where it says brown sparkline style accent 2, darker 25%. This one right here. And we are done with step number 11. All right, for step number 12. We want to select the range that represents the sales figures, the 4 quarters, and the names of each region. So we want to highlight from A3 all the way down to E7. So highlight A3 down to E7. Now we want to insert a recommended clustered column chart. To do that, let's go to our Insert tab. From our Insert tab, we're going to come to our Charts grouping. Click on Recommended Charts. And the very first one is already selected for us. It says Clustered Column. Go ahead and hit OK. And it puts a quick clustered column chart right here in our table for us. However, it wants the name of the region where quarter 1, 2, 3, and 4 are, and bringing quarters down to our legend. Come up here to our Design tab, our Chart Tools Design tab, and under the data grouping, click on Switch Row Column. And that will switch our columns here, and it will make these the regions with quarters, the legend with the different colors for the different numbers. It wants us to apply a chart style 8. And we're going to come up here to our chart styles under the Chart Tools Design tab. And I'm going to click this down arrow with the line above it. And style number 8 is this one right here with the black background. Also, it wants us to change the color to color 3 under colorful. So let's go ahead and find where it says change colors. Click the down arrow under colorful. Let's select color 3 or colorful palette 3. And it makes it look sort of like Thanksgiving colors. And let's go ahead and move our chart. So if you hover over this blank area right here, notice how you get 4 arrows pointing away from each other. That is our move handle. We're going to click hold and we're going to drag it so that the right upper corner is in cell F10. So right about here, and then let go. And we are done with step number 13. For step number 14, we want to change the chart title. Go ahead and click on the chart title once, and then go ahead and click on the chart title again to put our cursor inside of it. Use our arrow keys and our backspace key to delete the chart title, and then type in the title they want, which is 2019 Regional Sales to Fitness Club. And make sure you spell everything correctly. Make sure you capitalize the R, S, F, and C. And we are done with step number 14. So for step number 15, it wants us to deselect the chart. We're going to come over here and just click somewhere off of our chart, which I want to click right here in H12. And it wants us to change the page orientation to landscape. We'll come to our page layout tab here. From our page layout tab, we're going to click on this little guy right here. If you hover over this, this is our page setup icon. And it'll open up our page setup dialog box. And we're going to change our orientation to landscape. And we're going to click on margins. We're going to center on page horizontally, so put a check mark next to center on page horizontally. And then click on header and footer. We're going to click on custom footer. And in the left section, we want to click on this little icon right here that says insert file name. And we're done. We're going to hit OK. We're going to hit OK. And we are now finished with our assignment. We're going to go ahead and hit the save button up here. Go ahead and hit the save button a couple times, make sure it's saved. Then we're going to go ahead and close out of our assignment. And we're going to come back to this page here. We're going to hit the X to get out of our downloading starting materials. We're going to upload our assignment. Choose file. And then it should be saved under our downloads folder. Here it is, our student file. It'll have your last name. We'll click on that and hit open. And we want to hit upload and submit for grading. And then go ahead and close your assignment. If you want to see how well you did, you can come over here to our assignment list. We can click on the 3 dots and hit View Submissions. And you can find your submission. Right here is the submission I just submitted. It got 100%. You can go ahead and click on the submission, and you can scroll through and see exactly what you missed and what you got right. Once again, you can complete this assignment multiple times for the best grade possible. And if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, feel free to contact me through Canvas, and have a wonderful day. Hey, thanks for watching. If you found this video useful, please like and subscribe to the channel, as I'll be posting new walkthroughs and tech tips each week. Check back regularly for new content, and have a wonderful day.